And I believe we are live. Hello, everyone. Hope you're doing well. I'm Hector, and I'm here with my co-host Gilbert.
Hello, everyone.
Hope you're all doing well. We've got some interesting topics today. I guess the first one that we're going to start off with again, the terror caused by Green MPs just keeps going and going and keeps getting worse and worse. Started off with Golrez. She was assaulting business owners, robbing them, assaulting them, bashing them, threatening them. And now it seems like her legacy continues. The legacy of Golrez continues in Julian Genter, and another Green MP fellow colleague. So so far, Julie Genter, whatever the hell her name is. There was a video of her recently, like screaming at hysterically at a national MP that said something. I don't even know what he said. Something about like I don't know the ocean, and then she went all nuts. And there's been more claims where she's assaulted business owners, assaulted florists, assaulted colleagues. It's probably even assaulted friends and family. It's just completely out of control.
Yeah, that's. I mean, somebody's gotta. Yeah, well, she's assaulted florists, which
Yeah,
is
well, that
part of
was
the
one of the
Green
ones that
Party.
came out. Yeah, she's assaulted florists, she's assaulted business
I thought
owners.
she was a part of the Green Party. Anyway,
Well, I mean, we're sort of going to come to the point where these Green Party MPs just have no scruples whatsoever. You've also had the Green MP
mm,
that was caught like hiring illegal migrants and not paying them at her like bike hire business.
mm,
You had the other Green MP that just dropped dead from like cookie dough damage. So,
yeah,
it's not a great year for the Greens. And yeah, now you've got Julian Genter assaulting people, attacking people, threatening people, all the same things you had Golriz doing, but probably like twice as much. So there's been this one. This was Wellington business owner Nicola Cranefield saw Genter, and they got in some sort of discussion. And Genter like she didn't body slam her. She like grabbed her arm and started yelling at her. I don't know. Apparently it's about something about like bike lanes. She said like bike lanes are gay or something, and then the Green MP started like assaulting this person, which is pretty crazy.
what a weird thing to get so excited about. Like bike lanes. Like, I guess really
Oh,
reaching it.
it's
Yeah.
the Green MP, so they got to get excited about something.
They-
So she's a 33-year-old homeware store owner in Wellington.
mm,
And where was it? There's a story here somewhere. I thought maybe she didn't hear the stories on the ground. Maybe everything filtered through that could be useful information to her. That's when she grabbed my arm and gave it quite a strong shake. Grabbed my arm was really appropriate.
mm.
I think in the lead up to that, they were talking about, they'll talk about like bike lanes and stuff like that and buses. And the leader's like, oh, if they take off private vehicles, it's going to be bad for my business. And then this Green MP just went crazy and started attacking everyone.
Yeah, I mean, it really is kind of a lot of these leftists. They just can't stop being so hysterical about everything. You know, it's just chill out. Some people want to drive their cars and don't want the bike lanes. And the bike lanes are really quite a real obstruction. So I mean, I think a lot of people feel that way. So yeah.
Oh, I mean, it's silly. You can just ride your bike on the road. Why do you need your own
Mm,
lane? It just doesn't make any sense.
mm,
Yeah, there we
mm,
go. They were complaining about cycle lanes, and this is what caused Genter's absolutely complete rampage. She probably messed up the store. She probably also robbed the store. I mean, she had goal res to complete with, so she probably wasn't going to be outdone. I think this is just the tip of the iceberg. I expect we're going to hear
mm.
more of this because, like as we saw with Goal, whereas when she got caught, it wasn't the first time she'd done it. She'd done it multiple times before that. And with Gento, we've already got two people coming forward. So this is the person that owned yeah, the homeware store, and it says right there they had a heated debate about cycle lanes. Wow,
Mm.
just
She kind
wow.
of Julianne Genter or Jag, I guess we can call her. She kind of looks like a pug, sort of.
A really
Like,
bad photo they used. Yeah, I guess so.
yeah, sort of. Maybe that's just my imaginative mind, but if you imagine a pug, they are very kind of unruly and like to rip into things, and they do get very sort of frustrated quite easily because they heat up. But that's where I think she's coming from. She's a pug person, so she just can't handle
Yeah,
herself.
she embraced the pug life.
if someone wants to meme that, put Julianne Genter's face on a pug, you know, and you know, then maybe to biting someone or something. Yeah, maybe you could do that.
So
But yeah.
yeah. So that was the original one, and this is the new article that's just the new allegation that's come out, I believe today or yesterday. But the first one, yeah, she got in a argument with a business owner about bike lanes and cars and like car bans. And then there's a four-season florist owner, Laura Newcomb, uh, they got in another confrontation about cycle lanes. So this Julian Genter, as soon as you like criticize cycle lanes, she just snaps and turns into some like crazy beast. Like
Mm,
the beast has been unleashed whenever you talk criticize cycle lanes around Julian Genter, no, not what it was, Julie Genter,
mm. Yeah, yeah, the mighty pug beast. Just you can't restrain
we're
her.
pug.
She, we're pug. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean the moon wasn't too long ago, so the full moon. So she's probably just still coming down from her pug phase, and yeah, but yeah, okay, so that's yeah. I mean, it's just really the Greens just being very irresponsible and just taking L after L after L, and yeah, I this is where people kind of who have this kind of lifestyle end up, I guess. But
Yeah, well,
yeah,
that's the thing. They're just angry, seething, miserable
mm,
people, and it shows with their actions. It's their mindset, and it shows in their actions. Instead of being like happy, epic, and blessed, not stressed, these people are stressed. They're stressing out about bike lanes. They're stressing out about people driving cars. Not a
mm.
life you want to live, and they're literally seething, and they're literally attacking people at this point.
Imagine, yeah, imagine being seething and coping about people living a normal life. You know, like driving to work, and you know, eating like a steak every now and again, and yeah, that's crazy, man. Yeah,
Yeah, so this other one, I didn't really read this one. So I mean, this has happened earlier.
Second question,
This is
as
when she
the
starts.
Rocks Road
This is in Parliament. This MP or whatever, one of the MPs is talking about like roads, and talking about roads set Genter off, and she just starts
project,
like becoming the werepug.
the
The
Rocks
beast is
Road
unleashed
project,
in
which has
Parliament.
been
Look, where is it?
Whoa,
Oh, buddy.
Miss Genter,
Look,
oh,
yeah,
what?
look, she's like seething at this guy
Oh,
please resume your seat.
because this
Please
guy like
resume your
criticized,
seat.
I don't know, a road.
Okay, we're just going to have some order here. Sorry, Rachel Boyer. We're going to have some order. We know that transport is one of those
Had you not
touchy
seen this?
subjects.
I've seen screenshots.
But if we
Yeah.
want to get the best
Okay,
out of
this
the
is the
minister,
video.
interjections are fine, but it would be good if we could.
Yeah, she just went sort of nuts because this national MP mentioned a road. Like there was some real crazy stuff. Imagine getting like this worked up about roads. I know I had that rant about how there should be a two-lane road, 2 lanes down, say Highway 1, but I'm not gonna like start assaulting people if they just go, no, it should only have 1 lane. It's like the road at the end of the day. It's not that important.
The judge or the lady overseeing this, like she's like, "Oh, I know this is a sensitive topic." It's like it's really not. It's like, come on,
Yeah.
what is wrong with this poor lady? She needs like therapy or something, anger management therapy.
Well, yeah, she just seems to be like a miserable, angry, angry woman.
I hadn't seen the video though. I'd seen screenshots and
Yeah.
oh, what's this? But this is my first time actually seeing what happened. Okay, so here it all is. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's gotten so bad. Even Chloe Schwarbrick said that Julian Genter's
Yeah.
behavior is completely unacceptable. Like the low standards of Schwarbrick is even she can't stand by this nonsense.
Yeah, as an unhinged as she is as well. I mean, she's constantly like kvetching and screeching. I've seen so many like pictures of her soy facing out in Parliament, but yeah, it's But anyway, yeah, as very Nicola Cranfield described the encounter with Julianne Genter as very odd.
Yeah, I
She's
would as well.
smiling, she's happy. Like, look, she doesn't seem. She has like a very sunny, kind of happy disposition. So I don't know what I don't know why you get so uptight over her or whatever it was.
Yeah. This is the florist. I don't really know the florist story, so I might just skim over this.
Mm.
So Cranfields, that's the one we talked about earlier. She owned the homeware store. and
Oh,
like
yeah.
criticized the Green MP for trying to ban cars in like the Wellington CBD or something. So like,
Mm,
completely reasonable things to complain about to your,
mm.
your elected official. And now there's the florist, and I don't know what happened with the florist. Something. But I've been attacking more people.
Yeah, no respect for anyone. That's sort of the
Well, I mean,
politics of
they're
leftists.
leftists. They don't have respect for anyone. It's sort of like the
Yeah.
basis of their philosophy, right? The basis of their mindset is not having respect for anyone.
Yeah. No. Really,
And it
that's
shows,
it.
yeah.
Yeah. It absolutely shows. Yeah. I mean, this is the basis of their philosophy. Yeah. Mm.
Yes.
And this is what we're seeing right now. I mean, it's just one after the other. Like I don't think I've seen so much ownage like this.
Yeah, well, it's just Green MP
Before.
after Green MP. The cycle continues.
Yeah. Well, I mean, who's next? We'll wait to see what happens next, I guess.
Yeah, I think more of these accusations and revelations will come to light. Wouldn't be surprised again if it turned out that Julian and Genter was, again, like stealing from people, attacking people, all this sort of stuff. She probably like screams at her neighbors for
Mm,
like no reason, like some like hysterical woman. Probably
mm, mm.
has a cry about like bike lanes if someone like parks their car on the side of the road, starts like crying about bike lanes or something. So I wouldn't be surprised if more of this comes out in the near future.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Maybe her family will talk about it, like an abused family member or something. Her cousin. Yeah.
See,
Just like
there's the punk face. This
there.
sounds a bit
There's her
better.
face. There we go. Look at her.
Yeah.
Yeah, like someone waved a dog toy in front of her, like
Yeah.
a little chew toy. Caught her attention. It's okay. New allegations of inappropriate behavior has surfaced against Green MP Julianne Genter, with a Wellington business owner claiming the politician
Yeah.
grabbed her.
Yeah, it's the same one.
Yeah.
It's the one we already went over. Yeah, that's just very interesting that, again, these Green MPs are just shown to have absolutely no respect. And I bet it'll be the exact same thing that Golrez will do. She'll go, "Oh, the evil white men made me do it. I'm not to blame. Mental health. All the whitey made me do it. They're so mean to me."
Yeah, who knows if this will be her excuse? I mean,
Oh, I
that's
can
always something.
99% sure it will be.
Yeah, it's always something that she can fall back on, So somehow they'll blame white people, I guess.
Yeah, well, I mean that's also one of the bases of their ideology, is just blaming whitey for everything. So it makes sense at the end of the day.
Yeah, amazing that they can actually get white people to vote for them, because I think the majority of their base isn't it like young white people, or I
I
actually
think
don't
it's
know.
a lot of Browns vote Greens, but there are a lot of like retarded young people that have just been like fully indoctrinated and go, oh, well, they fully believe like, oh, brown people aren't responsible for any of their actions. Everything's whitey's fault. So
Yeah,
that's sort of like the green base now.
yeah, I think a lot of it also is like in school they really harp on the climate change thingy very hard, and kind of the Maori thing as well, but the environmental and climate change thing, and it's just like they go, this is the most important issue ever, and yeah, that kind of is why that so many of them they have a base of support there, perhaps.
Yeah,
But yeah.
I think most people grow out of the climate change. I mean, even when I was in school, it was pushed on you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I
It's
mean,
everyone.
it's
Yeah.
only just going to get worse and worse. I mean, most people grow out of it once they realize, oh, not really that big a deal.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I hope Julianne Genter isn't listening, Hector.
Oh yeah, she might go crazy.
She might come. Yeah.
Well, if
She'll
Julian
see.
Genter attacks
Yeah.
me, I'll just have to do a Sam Hyde and just like body slam her in self-defense or something.
Yeah, well, you just gotta be careful she doesn't bite you.
Yeah, I might get
Hug-
rabies or something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Maybe she has like a strain of rabies or meth, or yeah, who knows. But anyway, what have we got here?
Yeah, we'll move on. So that's the more again. This is like more just clown nonsense. Very unprofessional behavior from the Green Party, but that's sort of what you've come to expect now.
Yep.
So, anyways, here's some New Zealand employment statistics that were released by the Reserve Bank in the last week. So, employment has risen from 4% to 4.3% in a quarter. So in a 4-month period, the 3-month period, sorry, the unemployment rate has risen by 10% from its previous rate. It's higher than forecasted. The Reserve Bank initially forecasted 4.2% employment rate, so employment rate is rising higher than expected. A lot of this I guess some of this is all the public sector layoffs and News Hub, but there are
Mm,
other layoffs as well that are happening in all sorts of industries.
yeah.
And there's more to come. There you go. 31,000
Mm,
more unemployed people than in the start of the year. So it's a pretty big rise when you think about it. It's like this is not a yearly figure. There's still, 3/4 of the year left to go. So in
mm.
1/4 of the year, it's risen by 31,000 unemployed people. And
Jeez.
it's just pretty bad. And I don't expect it will be getting better anytime soon, especially with the way issues like cost of living, mass migration, high interest rates are continuing. It's just going to get worse and worse in the near future.
That's absolutely brutal, man. That's a real slamming on our economy. Holy cow! I mean, that's 31,000 more people unemployed. Jeez. I think we can probably safely say that a lot of this is because of Labour when they were in power, and especially as a result of their COVID agenda. And
Well, I mean
the
that just wrecked
businesses.
the economy completely.
Oh yeah, and businesses are still struggling as a result of that, and we're still struggling to get businesses back on foot. So I mean, this is what it is, and yeah, I mean national. But on top of that, of course we know national is or the coalition government we have now, that's no answer to this situation either. So yeah, I mean, Kiwis have got to get it really clear what they want, and they've got to vote for outside parties to stress, give us what we want, because that's the only way they're really going to listen, is if more and more Kiwis start voting much more for outsider parties, and actually forcing them to provide better things to in order to acquire their vote, right? I phrased that badly, but you understand what I mean. That people just have to kind of wake up, and hopefully we can all be a part of that. But yeah, I mean, yeah, this is. I don't think this is really gonna. Looking at how things are going and how the policies are proceeding from the current government, I mean, this isn't really an issue that's going to improve, especially with the changing geopolitical situation.
Yeah, and on top of that, you've got employment, you've got, inflation's continuing. Wage growth, while increasing, isn't increasing anywhere near the cost of living, which is increasing by about 5%. Year on year, wages only grew about 4%. So it's lower than inflation. So people are worse off. And especially if you've got stuff like a mortgage, you need to pay rent. I believe
Mm,
the year on year increases on rent is about 10%. And mortgages, obviously, the percentages have just like doubled. So as
mm,
these loan terms come to expire and they have to be renewed, they're just going to have to pay like way more on their interest payments because of high interest rates.
that's bloody brutal, man. I mean, that's a absolute slaughter. I really hope they do something. What kind of sectors are these in? Is this the okay? Um,
Says there. It says right there. I mean, this is
oh,
all
okay.
debt, so this isn't just the mortgages, but there's been a 28% surge in interest on debt. So if you're a debt
Mm,
holder, if you have a mortgage or any other type of debt, especially if it's like liquid debt, like credit card debt, which hopefully you should try to avoid at all costs.
mm,
Yeah, there's been a 28% rise in interest payments. So there's
jeez,
massive cost increases.
man.
It's pretty bad.
Yeah, that's yeah. I mean, more and more Kiwis are probably going to go to Aussie because of this. I mean, this is yeah. Yeah. This is not good. This has to be desperately sorted out.
Well, the problem with that is it's also bad in Australia. So I mean, the gap
Yeah.
between Australia and New Zealand like isn't as big as it used to be. That's not because New Zealand's getting better. It's because Australia's getting worse more rapidly than it's getting worse in New
Right.
Zealand. So
Right.
that gap in standard of living between Australia and New Zealand is starting to disappear.
Yeah, just be prepared in whatever way you can, guys. Try and find an alternative, or try and find something to keep yourselves and your families going. But yeah, time to think money wise, because this is an economy and a global situation that's not, you know, out to help us. It's out to get us. It's out to screw us over. So, and we can't, we've got another basically 3 years, right, Hector, until our next election. So this is that's a while.
Yeah, 2.5, 3.
Yeah, and an attempt to redeem ourselves, hopefully, to try and maybe then people will learn. I don't know. I don't know. But
Well,
yeah,
hopefully it's better
yeah,
late than never. But
yeah.
I still maintain my observation that I made months ago. Well, one of our earlier episodes is something like 70% of the New Zealand population is just like flat out retarded.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
we'll see
yeah.
what happens.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's accurate. Like 70 to 80% of people have, an IQ of 100. That's
Or
the bell
less, yeah.
curve, or less. Yeah, that's the bell curve. Robert Putnam, and that is just not really enough to, especially if those people are distracted by TV or mindless hobbies, or their children, or uni, or and work and their wife or whatever. That's kind of not really enough to really think things through, and once you realize that, it's kind of a bit of a lonely world, actually, that a lot of people are just operating on a very simple wavelength, and they care more about the rugby than they do politics. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah,
I
it's
mean, that
pretty
honestly,
insane.
the people at work, Hector, I try to talk to them about stuff, and they say, like they treat like politics as if it's like McDonald's, like, oh, I give you the money and you give me back it's like a service or something. It's like, nah, man, this is like a very complex, serious business, that serious issue that you have to contend with, and you have to spend time reading into it. But it's just like, reminds me of those Amerimut memes where they're like ruled by the United States of McDonald's, in 2070. Like, yeah, it's like it's a real problem, and I just, how to impress this. I mean, they literally care more. I hear how people talk around me and at work and stuff, and they talk about rugby and cricket, and they know all the ins and outs of all of it, and it's, they're so super serious about it all, and they know everything, and when they talk to me about it, I'm not really, that interested.
Not
It's just a
interested in the
game.
sports ball?
Yeah, yeah, well, exactly. I mean, it's just men throwing. I mean, if you I understand, like, sons and fathers, they bond over this stuff, and it's okay, okay. But like, I mean, we've gotten to this point where grown men, adult men take, the sports ball in their own way, their own bing bing wahoos more seriously than the sort of operation, or the life that they're going to be granted as a result of them, well, not partaking in politics properly, in any way. So this is, yeah, I mean, I don't know how you really, yeah, I mean, hopefully shows like this will become more prominent, but yeah, it's an issue. It's an issue. Hopefully people can wake up.
Yeah, well, hopefully we'll see what happens.
Yeah, because it's,
But yeah,
yeah.
things are gonna in terms of standard of living, cost of living, debt, interest rates and debt is just gonna get worse, and it's gonna be getting worse for like near future at least.
Mm, mm. Yep. 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 And we're just gonna hurtle down
Yeah.
just this, yeah, economic model that just doesn't suit us, and then you've got
Well, that's
the
the thing, because you know
yeah.
how historically, and I guess you'd say more
Hmm.
traditional economists will go, oh, because of the system, we have cycles of booms and busts. It's like, well, I think there's going to be less and less booms and more busts. It's just going to be a series
Yeah.
of busts for our
Mm,
economy over the next, basically for the future, unless we change it.
mm,
Like things are
mm.
only just going to get worse and worse if we continue under this current, socio-economic system
Yeah.
where it's all about growing the amount of debt in the economy, and that's the only way the economy grows is by increasing the amount of debt and the amount of people. We need to
Mm,
move away from that, obviously, but
mm,
the longer it goes on, the worse it's going to get.
mm, mm, mm. Yeah, yeah, and then you're just hurtling down like pure socialism, basically. And then they're going to roll out a phenomena we've never seen the likes of before with digitized currency. That's a possibility. I mean, these people are just building our own prison, basically. And it's like, please, 100 IQ normies, please wake up, and stop looking at the rugby for once, what I mean, Hector? You used to probably hear all about that, carry on as well when you
Yeah, yeah.
were, yeah. So, I mean, yeah, yeah. I mean, when I try to talk about politics and this kind of stuff, I'm looked at as weird. So it's just like, man, it's our country, It's they view me as less of a Kiwi because I care about more about politics and don't focus on the rugby. And they view themselves more as Kiwis because they're all about the rugby and don't really vote or pay attention to what's going on. I've literally had the people say that. Oh, you're not a real New Zealander if you don't watch the rugby, mate.
Yeah, it's just stupid, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
like,
I've had people say that to me,
I
and
mean,
it's
that
like,
sort of media image is pushed. That image is pushed by the media, like on purpose. Like,
yeah,
oh,
and
you need to
it
wear your
works.
All Blacks jersey and your gum boots to be New Zealand. Don't worry about all these pajeets and interest rate increase and cost of living. Just put on your gum boots and your All Blacks jersey and your true blue Kiwi bloke, mate.
It's literal like grug nationalism that they put on, like they think that that's their conception of their concept of nationalism, and it's literal
Yeah.
grug like North FC, yeah.
Oh, it's like yeah, it's probably like worse than that. At least like some of the North FC goes, oh, I don't like Packies, but I do still like my West Ham. But
yeah,
yeah, New Zealand, you don't even get that.
yeah. No, they never. Even though that's like, I think a lot of New Zealanders do. But yeah, anyway,
Oh,
that's
continue. We'll just go to the next topic.
oh yeah, like probably a lot of New Zealanders probably do feel a similar way when you talk about, oh, the Pakis, the Indians, or the Chinese, stealing our fish and chips, mate. And an Asian man parked in front of me, took my parking space. Oh fuck. No, but yeah, but that's also I was just gonna meme. That's all right.
All right, all good. Well, those are most of our New Zealand topics. We've got another one coming at the end, but this is actually a very important topic. The
Mm.
House in the United States passes anti-Semitism bill. I mean, they
Is
call
an
it a
amalgam.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's what this is. What this like,
Mm.
leftoid
Mm-hmm.
rag says, but I think it's very serious. So Speaker
Mm.
Johnson and there were and others from both parties, most Democrats and most Republicans, by a massive margin,
Mm.
passed the anti-Semitism bill.
Mm.
But yeah, there you go, 120 to 91 votes. So 4-1.
Mm.
4-1
Mm.
yays to the nays. The Anti-Semitism Awareness Act, which basically adopts the International Holocaust Remembrance Association's
Mm.
definition of anti-Semitism into the legal framework of what anti-Semitism is. So,
Mm.
as we've gone into this before, but we'll go into it again. The Holocaust Remembrance Association's definition of anti-Semitism includes things like criticizing Israel, criticizing like the Jewish religion. Like there was this weird part where they go like the actions of Jews real or imagined, so you can't even criticize Jews for things they actually did, or otherwise that's anti-Semitic, or referencing the Gospels or Acts in the Bible where obviously the Jewish temple was blamed for these killing of Christ,
Mm.
and
Mm.
basically
Mm.
like killing the Messiah. So
Mm.
just like basics like that. That's part of the the Holocaust Remembrance Association's definition of anti-Semitism. And the House in the US has officially accepted that as the legal definition of anti-Semitism, which can be used as, an aggregating factor in any sort of, supposed hate crime or anything like that. So if you're arrested for saying, I don't know, Israel shouldn't like genocide non like the Goyim,
Mm.
yeah, that could be a contributing factor of hate in your sentencing.
Yeah. Well, that's literally it. Like, you do try and argue with people online and other people. I mean, this is what this whole movement is literally about globally. Um, you know, stop killing these people. Um, and stop taking away our freedom to be able to protest. And that makes you an anti-Semite, you know? That's it's pretty ridiculous. And and Republicans supposedly being the party that is all about free speech and
Oh,
freedom.
we've seen this trend multiple times in the US. We saw it on
Mm.
state levels with Naomi. What's her name again? Naomi.
Oh yeah, her. I forgot her
The
name.
supposed VP pick, and it turned out she like shot a dog recently that was annoying her, or
Mm.
something like that. That's sort of crazy. It came
Yeah.
out like a week ago.
Shot a Kristi Noem.
Yeah,
I
Kristi
think,
Noem. She
Yeah.
did it, and
She shot a
DeSantis.
dog?
Oh, didn't you hear this? She shot a dog because she went on a like hike, and her dog was like too noisy. She went on like a hunting trip / hike, and the dog was like too noisy, so she shot it because it was annoying her.
Jeez. What the heck? I'm sure there's other things you could do than shooting a dog. Well, that's one reason
Well, obviously
why
she didn't
not
want
to.
she didn't want to delay her hunting trip, so she just blew this dog's brain out for barking or something.
Kristi Noem, eh? Jeez, that's pretty freaky. Yeah. So, okay. Wow. Okay. That definitely
Yeah,
she definitely shouldn't be VP then. Gosh, I
yeah,
mean,
talk
you
about
don't.
poor judgment. That would
Yeah.
actually be sort of funny if that sinks her chances of being a VP.
You know what,
She shot a
Christy, you
dog.
came close, but I heard about your dog. That's really messed up, Christy. I can't choose you because of that. It's fuck. In fact, why don't you get away from me and my dog? I mean, if Julianne Genter heard about that, who knows what she would do. But
Well, I mean, yeah, her fellow pug Kindred just got blown out
yeah,
by Kristi
jeez.
Noem. But anyways, the whole point I was trying to get at is she passed a
Sorry.
similar law in where's she from? North Dakota, I believe,
I think so. Yeah.
or Illinois or something, one of those states. And DeSantis was famously, I think he was the first one to do it. He passed the exact anti-Semitism law in Florida, and he flew to Israel and like cried at the wall while signing it. Like, you can't make this up.
Yeah, and they all do it. It's all they all do the same thing, and it's always they have to cry at the wall as well. You've got to really, drench your face in tears and have a huge emotional
Yeah.
reaction. Yeah.
You know how people always like criticize North Korea, how when like Kim Jong-un died, they're all
Yeah.
crying, and then like
Yeah.
literally our politicians do the exact same thing at the Wailing Wall.
They do. Oh man, Stone Toss should do a comic of that or something. That would be a really good one. But yeah, that's
Yeah,
a really good point.
come on, buddy. Why hasn't he done that one?
Yeah, I would say, yeah, that's a really good idea. He's been a bit he hasn't been too good recently, I think. But yeah, but I mean it's the same thing. We're ruled by these people. And I actually just sent you a link if you wanted to about a pastor who goes through just the real grip that all these not the one on the right. I don't know what that is, but that guy does a great. If you want to, that guy does like a great.
The American Israel Public Affairs Committee, AIPAC. If you haven't heard about them, you've been on Mars. AIPAC spends $2 to $3 million a year lobbying Congress on behalf of Israel and promoting Zionist causes. And it frequently
It's a really
writes
good rate on return as well. They spend $3 million on these candidates, and they get $26 million in aid. So what's that, like a 100x of what they put in?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Big
for
business.
Congress.
100x, 1000x the money
the
they put
American
in.
Israel Education Foundation spends millions of dollars annually on paid trips to Israel for members of Congress. They're constantly taking members of Congress to Israel for the purpose of influencing them. The Anti-Defamation League, ADL, spends millions of dollars annually spying on Americans who are critical of Israel, and uses massive amounts of money in smearing those people not deemed friendly to Israel. The mainstream media also promotes the Zionist agenda by accusing those on ADL lists as being anti-Semitic. The International Fellowship of Christian and Jews uses a $100 million annual revenue stream to promote Israel Zionism among evangelical Christians. The Central Fund of Israel uses a $20 million revenue stream promoting Israeli settlements in Palestine. Christians United for Israel, founded by John Hagee, run by a Jewish-American attorney from Tel Aviv, David Brogue. Its lobbying arm is called CUFI Action Fund, headed by Gary Bauer, uses a $7 million annual budget to lobby members of Congress on behalf of Zionist causes. Hagee himself has given more than $80 million to Zionist causes in Israel. And then, if that's not enough in your spare time, you might want to check out the Washington Institute for Near East Policy, Simon Wiesenthal Center, Israel Project, Friends of Israeli Defense Forces, Women's Zionist Organizations of America, the Jewish Agency for Israel, American Friends of Likud, American Israel
Friends of
Cooperative
Likud.
Enterprise,
It's like,
the Israel
directly for
Allies
Netanyahu
Allies
at that
Foundation,
point.
the Jewish
Yep.
Policy Center,
Yep.
Leon and Harry Helmsley Charitable Trust, Jewish Council for Public Affairs, Zionist Organization of America, World Jewish Congress, Republican Jewish Coalition, National Jewish Democratic Council, Center for Security
Sites.
Policy, Israeli
Come on,
American
mate. You're not allowed to
Council,
say any of this.
etc.,
Don't you know you're not
etc.,
allowed to say
etc.,
that Jews
etc.
have any
These are
organized
all
influence now? It's
lobbying
under the
groups for
Anti-Semitism
Zionist
Awareness Act.
Israel in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
Come on,
Yeah.
buddy. You're not allowed to say that Jews have any organized institutional influence. It's illegal now.
Yeah. So I mean, this is like such a. I don't know how Americans can really ignore this issue anymore.
Well, it's becoming
I mean,
more and more alarming. Like the more that the more and more people just choose to ignore it, especially over just like in the last 2 or 3 years. It's just been getting more and more overt. The Zionist control over America, and this is just like what's your actual reasoning? Like, if you go, oh, Jews don't control America, it's like, well, then how do you say like there's a bipartisan resolution, say like criticizing Israel counts as anti-Semitism now and can be a contributing factor in any sort of sentencing? But how does that work? Like, what's the logic behind that? No, it's like, yeah, I mean, there's all these Zionist, politicians and people in influence and donating millions of dollars to these politicians for billions of dollars in aid in return, like a giant Ponzi scheme. There's laws like this being passed on a federal and state level, but no, they're saying that like Jews have any influence over America. No, that's just a conspiracy theory, Goyam.
Yeah. I even saw like a really funny Zio or Jew post that was saying like, oh, how Palestinians are taking over America. And,
The
Palestinians.
Palestinians.
Yeah. I'll try and find it. But it's there's no level of ridiculous that they're not trying to. It's almost like all the Kool-Aid, the low IQ Kool-Aid they gave the boomers is that they've almost like started drinking it themselves, and now like they're like they can't come up with any.
I do actually think that is probably part of it, because we're sort of up to. I've heard other people talk about this, that like the Jews that actually got into these positions of power are basically all like dead or retired. It's all like their children and grandchildren now. And they don't have the same level as like cunning and wit of the people that actually, weaseled their way into these positions of influence. So that's why it's just getting more and more overt and more desperate.
Yeah, and it looks like it's really backfiring. Oh, did you want to play this?
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to show this article that shows it. I mean, at least there are some people that aren't like fully on the Kool-Aid. I mean, Matt Gaetz, obviously he's not perfect, but much like Winston Peters, I mean, at least there's like some pushback there. At least Matt Gaetz is saying that it's this is against the First Amendment and it's a completely ridiculous law.
Yeah. It's good to see.
No basis in reality or the Constitution, which is all true. But all the other politicians know that this has like no basis in the Constitution. It's against free speech. All that, but they just pass it anyway.
Yeah, crazy. We'll see. I don't know. There's not really, come November 5th, there's not really much, either way. You've got Trump and you've got Biden, right? So, but
I mean, at this point, it seems like Trump is more and more likely going to get in unless there's something like extremely fishy going on. I mean, you just have to look at the polling in all the swing states. Trump's ahead in like all of them. So a second Trump presidency is more and more likely. I think the question is going to be more and more in the coming months. It's like, what is that second term going to look like? I mean, you'd obviously hope it's much better than his first term. Hopefully he learned a couple lessons in the 4 years he's been out of office, because the first term left a lot to be desired. So we'll see what happens with the second term. And his VP pick, if it is like Naomi, Kristi Noem, or DeSantis, like these other Ziocons that have been pushing for these laws, the second term might not be that good. But if you get someone somewhat okay, like Gates or something, I think Gates would be a good pick, but
Yeah.
I don't know if Trump's going to do it. I think Gates is too based for Trump. And
Yeah.
it's like Gates isn't even on like our level or something like that. Like he's like pretty much on like a Winston Peters level, and even that's probably a bit too much. Or Trump, he's going to get some weird, I don't know, some weirdo Zio boomer as his VP.
Yeah, I had heard that the list that he put out there, it's not actually going to be any of those people. It's actually going to be
I hope
someone else.
because all those people were
entirely.
terrible.
Yeah, no, they're like, yeah, they just suck. They're just terrible choices. It's like, come on, man. Isn't there anybody, But yeah, I think that was recently revealed. I can't remember where, but yeah, I saw that being tossed around that we don't actually know, and it's not any of those people. Yeah.
Well, he's going to have to announce it soon. I mean, the primaries are pretty much, for all intents and purposes, over. Trump has enough delegates, but they still go until the end of July. So it'll be sometime after that Trump will choose his VP. Let me just check that. I'll fact check that. But I believe it's the end of July is when the actual Republican convention is. So.
Yeah. Yeah, the Bible is clear. There is no myth or controversy on this. Therefore, I will not support this bill, he wrote. Yeah, the IHRA defines anti-Semitism on its website as a certain perception of Jews, which may be expressed as hatred towards Jews. Rhetorical and physical manifestations of anti-Semitism are directed toward Jewish or non-Jewish individuals and or their property, toward Jewish community institutions and religious facilities. Yeah. So, yeah, Gates has, again, tried to oppose this. Yeah.
Yeah, oppose it using some common sense. I mean, imagine that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that does, I mean, many say that the Bible is anti-Semitic. Many Jews, that is. So, yeah. He called them the anti-Semitism police. That's quite funny. Which is basically what it is. But yeah.
Well, I mean, that's what it is. I mean, yeah, the Holocaust, International Holocaust Remembrance Association has been trying to push these laws all over, and they were recently trying to do it in Australia. They were meeting with Albanese, I think only like a week or two ago, and they're trying to push these exact same laws in Australian Parliament as they're pushing in the American House of Representatives.
Yeah, wild, man. It's yeah, thankfully we don't have that here in New Zealand, but I mean, this is, they're going too far with this. This is just going to continue to backfire. And there was like a result that, the youth, their support for Israel is just diminishing all the time, So.
Yeah, we've seen it's between like left-wing youth and right-wing youth. They're declining amongst both, luckily.
Yeah, and it's interesting. There was that protest that happened in like support of America and Israel at that, I think it was UCLA, but I think it was some college campus. But yeah, I mean, there's like we've seen before that, I guess Israeli intelligence or Israeli groups, they'll actually just they'll give like $500 or so to people to like organize an artificial protest with all these young kids, and they'll just go, oh, I support Israel, blah blah blah, and they'll just have these astroturfed kind of campaigns where they'll just appear. So I wonder if that and will we see more of that as well?
Probably. So, yeah, you probably will see more of that.
Yeah, there's also that video that remember Netanyahu. He was responding to all the protests he saw in the US and globally, and he was saying, "Oh, don't be anti-Semitic, goy. This is like kind of just finger wagging." And it's like, man, the chutzpah of these people,
Yeah.
Yeah. But
yeah. Well, I mean, that's what we have to say about that. I mean, it still has to go through the Senate. I don't know when it's going through, but it probably will pass. So it'll be interesting to see if this goes to maybe It's the Supreme Court at one point, but that's probably years off. So we'll see what happens.
Certainly. Yeah.
All right. So this is Winston Peters. In the last week or so, he's been, doing his duties as a foreign affairs minister. Here he is meeting with his German colleagues, talking about how there needs to be a ceasefire in Gaza. So at least Winston Peters isn't shilling for Israel, which I think is a good thing. One of his
Yeah.
better qualities, at least he's not shilling for Israel, like Naomi Goem, or whatever her name is.
Christy Nome.
Christy Nome.
That's a good one, though. She should be called that instead.
Yeah, so there's that. Met up with German colleagues and talked about Gaza. So see what's going on there. Anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, so he met up with Annalena Baerbock during her first official visit to New Zealand. So she's German foreign minister of the Greens party, sent by Olaf Scholz, to discuss AUKUS and a whole host of other things about where New Zealand fits into this new global arrangement that they are trying to figure out and flesh out, really, and what New Zealand's role would be in that. And this particularly comes at a time when, for many years now, everyone has been very cognizant and noticing that China has been extremely aggressive in the Indo-Pacific, going as far as, Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Japan, Senkaku Islands, but even all the way down to New Zealand as well. And they are very aggressive in that. And in fact, they, just recently, I saw a Zero Hedge article where it was talking about how, Chinese vessels were blasting Filipino ships with water cannons. So that prompted them to discuss with the US, what to do in the advent when they try and impress upon their national waters. So they've been very aggressive in this way. And I guess I'll just give a quick rundown of what Pillar 2 of AUKUS is. Pillar 2 of AUKUS focuses on jointly developing advanced capabilities, particularly in areas such as undersea capabilities, quantum technology, hypersonics, and autonomous systems. This pillar aims to supercharge process in these emerging technologies, which are critical to maintaining a competitive edge in the Indo-Pacific region. So, yeah, I mean, apparently in a lot of these technologies and capabilities, China has quite an edge. And the AUKUS partners have announced plans to conduct experimentation and demonstrations in 4 of these areas before 2025, with trials already taking place in the United Kingdom. The development of these advanced capabilities is expected to occur ahead of the sale of US Virginia-class submarines to Australia. That's a big part of it. Because
that's part of this, right? The
sure.
A UK-US agreement about most of it's about nuclear submarines and whatnot.
Yeah, exactly. That's which is very important. I was very surprised to see when Winston Peters was posting on Twitter. I mean, a lot of people were just really, again, that 100 IQ kind of energy, I guess, just not really understanding. It was very, perhaps I can't, they are the comment section. You can't expect anything but glibness, glib responses. But it's like people calling him like a WEF shill, and people accusing, Peters not being loyal enough to Russia. Like really weird.
Who gives a crap about Russia? It's like, it's Australia getting nuclear submarines. What does Russia have to do with this nonsense?
Yeah, and it's really interesting to see like people thinking at that level. It's like, man, are you people like thinking at all?
I think you've answered your own question there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that was really amazing that he got such pushback. But I mean, this is like China has been and like New Zealanders all, I think, are aware of this. Like China is being very aggressive in the Indo-Pacific region, and yeah, it's a great concern to all these people. You can scroll down a bit here, and I'll just
What do you
read
want to
this.
read?
So
Oh, read that bit.
yeah, I'll sorry.
Oh,
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
you read it.
just that bit. Yeah, yep. So the issue: the United States and its allies are in a strategic competition with China, in which the race to develop and deploy emerging technologies will play a decisive role. Pillar two of the trilateral AUKUS agreement, which focuses on jointly developing advanced capabilities between the three countries, holds the potential to supercharge progress. In the short term, AUKUS could improve interoperability among its partners in realms such as electronic warfare, or EW, and command and control, C2. In the longer term, AUKUS could catalyze the integration of AI technologies among its partners and into defense and security applications, but only if these countries act now to harmonize their approaches and consult experts. To realize the full potential of Pillar 2, the United States should reassure its AUKUS partners by taking radical steps to overcome barriers to cooperation, improve information sharing, and reform export controls. Above all, the success of AUKUS Pillar 2 will depend on turning the strong political ties between the three nations into a new collective mindset to treat the agreement as an opportunity to find marginal or even transformative gains in the strategic competition with China. So all this, I think, really should have been done a long time ago. They should
Yeah,
have
it's
had
interesting
these.
they're only starting to do this in like 2020. I mean, when did the agreement
Yeah.
start? About 2021, 2022.
Yeah, I mean that is very late in the game, and apparently the intelligence shows that China's ahead of the game. So yeah, so AUKUS involves two pillars. Pillar one, providing Australia with conventionally armed nuclear-powered submarine capability, and Pillar two, trilaterally developing, providing joint advanced military capabilities. And it is a generational opportunity for deeper collaboration with two of our closest allies. But make no mistake, the success of AUKUS is not predetermined, it must be built. And
Wasn't
yeah, that's
yeah? Wasn't there a third
mhm.
pillar, or are we getting to
uh,
that later, or is it just one and two
uh,
pillars at the moment?
I think it's just two pillars, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, this article is actually very interesting if you guys want to read through it. We won't read through all of it, but basically, China is, yeah, as well as being very aggressive in the region, China is developing all these technologies in these areas, which apparently it is leading in, and it is doing very well in. And this is, we have to keep, and this is what it is. I don't understand the Twitter backlash. I mean, we want to be like ahead
Oh, it's
of
just
Russia and
retarded.
China.
It's
Yeah,
retarded boomer nonsense. It's like, oh, but
yeah,
China's a trade partner. We need to sell them like strawberries. It's like,
yeah.
I think we've got more important things to worry about than selling strawberries.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, exactly. And it's like, yeah, and a lot of their stuff, I don't really trust the fruit or anything from China. I mean, there was a recent discovery that headphones made in China actually are made with a particular plastic that actually denatures the sperm and men's and men's I guess reproductive organs, and has a neutering effect basically, and this was a big concern when people were auditing the company and the materials it was using. So that's so I mean I think really, and I mean their whole country is built on communism, literally the
It's
most
built on like
hellish.
communism and scamming people. It's like, do you remember back when years ago,
Yeah.
maybe a decade ago, when there was a big scandal about the Chinese milk powder and they're putting like fertilizer in it or something
Oh
to
yeah,
increase its
God.
volume?
Oh
All
yeah,
sorts of crazy stuff like that.
yeah, and that's constant, like all the time. So it's like I think actually New Zealand, and I think New Zealanders, well, a lot of New Zealanders I thought have this mindset where it's like we should actually transition our economy away from China because they just, well, first
They're
off,
not a
cheap is not
reliable,
always good.
yeah, cheap's not good, and they're not an honest or reliable trading partner.
Yeah, we
So
want moral people that we trust, that align with our morals and thinking, and they just have not shown that. I mean, as you know, and we'll get into that a little bit later. I'll discuss that because there's some really alarming stuff with all of this. If people, I mean, let me just be really clear with all of this. This is not a kind of a lame duck sort of thing. I mean, this is very serious. What is happening with China and Russia, and China is observing what Russia is doing in Ukraine, and they're learning and studying that, and they're going to use that to eventually invade other countries. That they're learning from, because that's a big part of war that people might not know, that but sometimes as years pass, or actually all the time, as years pass, militaries forget how to kind of do things and how to approach things, and they lose the experience, and so they have to sort of learn by doing almost, and that's what China's doing right now. But it's even more than that. I mean, a lot of people are very spooked right now, and I think I see that in Winston Peters as well. But if you go back to that article,
Oh,
Hector,
this one? Sorry. This one? Yeah,
oh yeah,
this one.
just briefly,
Yep.
if you go right to the bottom, just
Right.
pull that
Holy, yeah,
sucker,
this is a big article. I have to
pull
read
that
this now.
sucker down. Yeah, so if you guys want to read this, that's and just go up a bit to the conclusion.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just the United States and its allies are in a strategic competition with China, in which the race to develop and deploy emerging technologies will play a decisive role. In this context, Pillar 2 of AUKUS holds the potential to supercharge progress in the short and long term. In the short term, AUKUS could improve interoperability among partners in realms of electronic warfare and C2. In the longer term, AUKUS could catalyze the integration of AI technologies among partners and into defense and security applications, but only if they take steps now to harmonize their approaches and consult experts. Perhaps most importantly, to realize the potential of Pillar 2, the United States needs to reassure its AUKUS partners by taking drastic steps to overcome barriers to cooperation, improve information sharing, and reform export controls. Above all, the success of AUKUS Pillar 2 will depend on turning the strong political will the three partners have so far demonstrated into a new collective mindset. For Pillar 2 to succeed, it should be treated as an opportunity to find marginal or even transformative gains in strategic competition with China, rather than a series of challenges to overcome through piecemeal changes to, for example, information sharing policies or more stringent export and technology controls. So yeah, not predetermined, but they have to work on it now, and that's basically summed up what it is. And yeah, and if you want to go to that next tab,
Oh, the Hipkins?
yeah, I mean, I get, like, we really see all the gremlins come out of the woodwork. He's I don't even how do I read this? What's his voice?
Winston Peters has once again embarrassed New Zealand by making potentially defamatory allegations about senior and respected leader from our closest ally. The Prime Minister needs to show some leadership and stand him down immediately.
And it's like, this is so silly. And we'll go into Bob Carr
Yeah,
next.
I
But
was going to say, I don't
Hmm.
think most Australians are particularly like Bob Carr. I don't think he's a particularly popular figure, to be fair. Nor well respected. He's not very well respected at all.
Well, that's good to hear, because he has some very dubious sorts of connections, which we'll soon kind of explore. And I mean, this sentiment by Hipkins was really echoed by Helen Clark, even. And if we go to the next one, it's
Yeah, so do you want to go over the background of this whole spat and disagreement between Bob Carr and Winston Peters?
Yeah, sure. I mean, so what happened? I mean, Winston Peters was trying to organize this whole AUKUS agreement. It's about our national security, our national defense, right? We need to be a part of this and deter China from behaving in the aggressive way that it is behaving. And yeah, so Bob Carr's lawyers sent legal letter to Winston Peters, and this was all because he kind of just interjected himself into New Zealand affairs. Uh, why because Winston was trying to initiate this agreement for New Zealand and trying to flesh it out with Annalena Boberg, or whatever her name is, and yeah, and trying to think of ways. Okay, how do we? And Winston Peters say this. How do we basically redefine and transform ourselves in the midst of this completely different geopolitical situation where all our current policies are like from the 80s. Like the 80s have come and gone, guys. Like this is a whole nother game we're playing here, and the Russians and Chinese are ahead in a lot of ways, a lot of important ways. So yeah, he is looking to commence these defamation proceedings against Winston Peters, which is just like totally ridiculous. You know, like what business does he have really getting involved in our affairs? You know, Winston Peters himself even said, you know, that we are a independent and sovereign nation. We have the right to, you know, proceed how we see fit as it pertains to our national security. You know, and that if that means joining up with others to form a pact, then that we're allowed to do that. But yeah, if you browse down a bit, you might be able to. Yeah, so Peters criticised the former Australian senator's views on the security partnership between Australia, the UK, and the United States. He also made allegations concerning Carr's relationship with China, and that's really big. And yeah, so they say, you know, they claim that our client has never had any business relationship with any Chinese entity, which is just a flat out lie. Like we'll soon see that. But yeah, if you continue scrolling, yeah. So has been contacted for on Friday morning, Labour for so they were saying that Peters comments were very damaging to New Zealand international relations. It's like why, you know, noticing
Well, what
a
comments
massive
there? Calling Carr a shill.
yeah,
I don't think anyone
basically.
really cares.
Yeah, nobody cares, and he is a shill, as we'll soon see. So, yeah, this is basically what it is. Does it go any further than that, or
No, that's
no?
basically the end.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, we'll proceed on to the next one. Um, yeah, so he called him an ill-informed shill. Peters lashes out at moments before China's speech, but it's even more than that. I mean, this is like a dubious guy,
Mm.
a lot of connections with China. Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Winston Peters addressed the New Zealand China Council this morning and called on China to uphold its obligations. And this is very important because I so he engaged in the spat and you know he called out his relationship with China, which is fair enough as we'll soon see. But as we'll before that, we'll just sort of get a taste. Like there's been a lot of kind of worry about kind of what's been going on here. I mean, recently we had an FBI director, what was his name, Chris Ray, says, well, anyway, FBI says Chinese government-linked hackers have burrowed into U.S. critical infrastructure and are waiting for just the right moment to deal a devastating blow, says FBI Director Christopher Wray on Thursday. And so that's significant. So they've actually have evidence of Chinese actually observing their processes. And America's sort of energy systems, as it pertains to water, but electricity as well, as it's not shielded with Faraday cages, essentially leaving it like very vulnerable to an EMP or other attacks. So, and then there's this. Russian hackers, and this is all very recent, by the way, Russian hackers claiming to be backed by the Kremlin are believed to have remotely accessed a Texas town's water tower. The suspected hack in the Texas Panhandle town in January will be the first ever disruption of a US drinking water system by Russia after Iran and China carried out similar
Yeah, I
attacks.
remember when Iran and China did those attacks a couple years ago. Oh, maybe
Yeah.
not. Maybe it was within a year actually, somewhat
Mm.
recently.
So, and this is serious, and this could be. It looks like they're building this up. They're trying to sources of intel that I've looked at and I've listened to that they're really trying to get ahead of this very quickly to basically ahead of the November 5th election to put all these things in place to wreak havoc, basically. And an estimate of some 150,000 PLA Chinese soldiers are being forced through the southern border. So this is what we're dealing with. And and on another article, FBI director warns that Chinese hackers are preparing to wreak havoc on U.S. critical infrastructure. He warned that Chinese hackers are preparing to wreak havoc and cause real world harm to the US. Chinese hackers are positioning on American infrastructure in preparation to wreak havoc, cause real world harm to American citizens and communities if or when China decides the time has come to strike. Yeah. So this is what he told to the House Select Committee on the Chinese Communist Party, and it goes on at length with that. So, this is really quite concerning stuff, and it's happening right now. Um, not enough people are really talking about it. But anyway, so these kinds of things, like, people just, I guess, don't know or aren't aware of what is going on. A lot I've like, a lot of people in the FBI and the government seem very spooked, very freaked out. I think Peters as well is very kind of worried about this as well. He seems like, there's been a shift, and he seems to be taking things more serious now. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
Um, mm,
Well, I mean, just for the people that don't know, Bob Carr, he was in charge of the Australia-China Relations Institute for
mm,
like a decade in the 2010s. So he's been like pushing Australia to be rely more and more on Chinese trade
yeah,
for economic reasons. Yeah, he's been basically, it's completely true. He got paid to
high
shill for
treason,
China.
man.
Yeah, he
High
got paid to
treason.
shill for China for decades
M-
as part of his at the University of Sydney as
Make
the relations director for the Chinese Australia Relations Institute, and then then at the same time he got to be the Minister of Foreign Affairs before that. So what he was the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and then he worked as like an academic to constantly shill for China. So
mm, mm, mm. Yeah, precisely. Yeah, I mean, literally making us reliant on not just our competitors but our enemies, making us reliant, treating them as if our enemies are our saviors. It's totally sick. So yeah, Peter says we're living in a fractious world, and that is the wider context for understanding our complex relationship with China and how we navigate it. But they're just basically saying, oh, don't do this deal, and we're gonna sue you for it. And yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. You go to the next one.
there you go.
Yeah, calls for NZ to step back from joining AUKUS security pact. Former Australian Minister Bob Carr has sounded warning bells on AUKUS security pact and called for a different approach to rising security tensions in the region, which is really ridiculous. Yeah, um, it's yeah. So he spoke to a panel at Parliament alongside Helen Clark, who basically echoed the same sentiment.
Yeah.
And it's like,
I mean, you got these
what
guys
on
literally
earth?
shilling for China, and then Winston Peters calls them a shill for China, and then he tries to like sue Winston Peters. It's sort of stupid.
Yeah, and like, Peters is trying to bolster our defenses and national security. I mean, this is like what any country. This is like a basic function of what you do. What you're supposed to do as a politician is to protect your country, right? So I mean, they're basically calling for the disarmament. That's Bob Carr and Helen Clark. Bob Carr, who isn't even a New Zealander, they're calling for basically the
Yeah, he's not even a
disarmament.
New Zealander, and he's doing this panel to the New
Yeah,
Zealand Parliament or whatever it's called.
and
Uh,
when he's had all these connections to the Chinese, to the CCP, and he calling the disarmament of our nation and making us totally vulnerable and less sort of communicative and less simpatico with our allies. It's like, why would you, it's very weird, and that's a huge red flag to me. So yeah, he says like we need to approach it a different way, but it's like, man, there's a lot of evidence that they're hacking us, that they're mobilizing their military in the Pacific, they're contesting everybody's national waters. It's like it just goes on and on. Like we can all see what's going on with the CCP becoming more aggressive. All the signs are there that they're getting ready for war. That they're preparing for it.
Well, I
So
mean, they
Helen,
sort of have to go
mm,
to war because they tried to do their Belt and Road Initiative, and by and large, that's sort of gone nowhere.
mm,
They funded all these infrastructure projects in like Pakistan, and most of them aren't even completed, and Pakistan like can't even pay its debt already, and these infrastructure projects aren't even done yet.
mm,
So
mm,
it's been a bit of a flop. So it makes sense that they're trying to pivot to a more militarized strategy because their whole strategy of just giving all these like shitholes a bunch of debt hasn't really worked because turns out
mm.
all these brown countries can't actually pay the debt, let alone like
Yeah.
finish making these bridges and whatnot.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, they are kind of, and that's the concern. Yeah, that they could go, and all the signs of collapse are there for them, or very hard future ahead for them. And they talk about New Zealand as should be solely diplomatic. Okay, so we're not allowed to have any defense or security. And they talk about nuclear free New Zealand as being a place of diplomacy and detente and the Asia Pacific region. But again, that's not an argument as to why we shouldn't have our own, you know, security concerns. And it's
Well, I mean,
a
most like
descent into war.
most
Mm,
neutral countries tend to take like their security actually somewhat seriously. I mean, Finland was neutral for like 80 years, and
mm,
they took their defense seriously. So it doesn't make sense.
yeah.
We
Well,
should be neutral, so like we shouldn't have like any security capabilities. It
so it
doesn't add
doesn't
up.
make sense. It does, and that's just not how it works in the real world. He said, yeah, New Zealand nuclear free status meant was well placed to nurture the idea in Asia Pacific diplomacy of a détente, not a descent into war between the U.S. and China, which is ridiculous. Like as you were just saying, Hector, like it's like you prevent wars by being strong yourself. That's the deterrent. That's what stops war. You don't stop a war by making yourself weak, by having guns, by having intelligence and information, and being ahead of that. That prevents war from happening because they don't want to attack you, obviously. So that's the best way that you can actually achieve peace. And certainly against the CCP, which is full of psychopaths basically. I mean, they all have a heritage of murder, basically, and they have the goal to accuse the West of being imperialistic when they have the most sort of violent regime in the history of mankind, really. So yeah, it's just not an argument, and it's clear what they're doing. If you scroll down a bit, we can hear what Helen Snark was saying. Um, yeah, so sh- yeah, today she called for New Zealand to be a voice for de-escalating tensions and finding a common cause where we can. Uh, Clark said AUKUS is an agreement clearly aimed at China, our major trading partner. Again, it's like we can shift trading partners. We don't have to be reliant on this tyrannical regime that had a huge part in the COVID-19 agenda.
Yeah,
So I
well,
mean,
remember back in the early days of COVID, where like the China Foreign Ministry was saying, "Oh, it's racist if like white countries don't let Chinese people into their
yeah,
country at like the height of the pandemic." Like,
yeah.
oh, it's racist for all these countries to close their borders to China because we have like because China is a center of pestilence.
Yeah, it's just yeah, amazing, amazing. So yeah, it's she believed in an alignment with the security pact would compromise New Zealand's ability to navigate relationships independently. It says at the bottom there, and yeah, so this is just more. Trevor Loudon actually on Counterpunch with Trevor Loudon actually documents how socialists and communists got a really strong foothold in New Zealand in the 70s, and through a lot of different groups of people, and a lot of anti-nuclear stuff, and managed to basically decrease any or stop any chances we would have at having a closer relationship with the United States. But yeah, I mean, Helen Clark is just these are all just UN China communist shills. Well, what's the next tab, Hector?
Next tab. So this is Bob Carr.
Mm,
I mean, we sort of went over it, but I think the important part was here. So
mm,
after state politics,
hmm
after politics.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. This is what I wanted to go over because we talked about Carr. He was a former foreign minister for a year under Kevin Rudd. He.
Is it showing on my screen?
Oh,
Or?
sorry. Yeah, there
Yeah.
you go. It was on the stream, but not the stream. So
Yeah.
after he was foreign minister, he started again the Australia-China Institute in the Sydney University of Technology in Sydney, which was established by a donation from Hung Zhigyongmu, a Chinese billionaire. So he's like literally taking money from Hung Zhigyongmu to start this,
Yeah.
pro-China think tank at the Australian
Citation,
University.
citation, citation.
Yeah.
Yeah. 3 citations and another citation at the
And
end
he
there.
and he worked there for 6 years, and people go, "Oh no, you're not allowed to call me a shill, even though I co-founded this institute with millions of dollars of donations from a Chinese billionaire."
Do you want to hover over those citations? I'll read them
Sure.
quickly so the audience can see. Yeah. So Australia's China challenge, the New York Times,
Yeah.
is one, and then if you want to do the others, China economy specialists who set research agenda for new think tank, and China's brazen and aggressive political interference,
Oh, this one.
and yeah.
The web link didn't even work.
Oh,
There
it's
we
all
go.
right. We just so they can see, just
Yeah.
if they want to check them out. We can. So continue, Hector.
Yeah. So I mean, that's just what I wanted to say. So he says like, "Oh
Mm,
no, I never received a cent from China." I was like, "You obviously did."
uh,
Like,
mm,
right here. It's like here. She
mm,
received
mm.
like probably millions of dollars. I don't know the exact amount to set up this think tank on behalf of a Chinese billionaire that's part of the Chinese Communist Party.
Yeah, it's crazy, and so Carr announced the same day he would sue Peters for libel as part of the ongoing Carr-Peters scandal. So yeah, and all because Peters tried to bolster our national security, basically, is what this is. So yeah, I mean, and Huang Zhangmo Mao, he's like, um, yeah, very very linked to. Yeah, he was a permanent resident political donor in Australia, but was later barred entry into the country on national security grounds. Additionally, then Australian Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull was advised by the Australian Security Intelligence Organisation to not attend fundraisers or events where Huang was present due to national security concerns. And we've got 5 citations there. Do you want me to read those out? Oops, sorry.
Yeah, sorry, there you go.
Banned billionaire Huang Jingmao hits out at political parties, The Guardian. Huang Jingmao slams lies behind stripping of his Australian residency, South China Morning Post.
Yeah, that's a
Um,
pro-China
yeah.
publication. Oh,
Sorry.
I'm
Oh,
trying
yeah.
to do it, but my mouse keeps.
Third.
There we go. Yeah.
There we go. Chinese billionaire wants political parties to pay back his donations. ABC News. You don't do what I want. You didn't do
That's
communist
actually sort of
takeover of
funny.
Australia. Yeah. Revelations against an infamous Chinese donor are a small part of the story. The Sydney Morning Herald. And guests on Gladys Liu list for Malcolm Turnbull event sparked ACO, Australia Security Intelligence Organization, concerns ABC
Yeah.
News.
So I mean, this is the guy that
Mm.
Bob Carr co-founded this China Relations organization with.
And he
So,
works with them. He worked with them, and
well, yeah, for years.
and Peter says like you're a shill for these people, and he says no, I'm not. I'm suing you. It's just so. And then Helen Clark basically and Chris Hipkins takes his side virtually, and they don't want this to go ahead. Because the UN, which Clark works for, still is deeply infiltrated by communist sympathizers. So this is like, this is a very big problem. And Yeah. Huang was also implicated in media investigations that he provided advice to Crown Resorts on how the company should deal with Chinese officials regarding the arrest of Crown staff in China for breaking Chinese law by promoting gambling. Okay. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, this guy's yeah. Um,
Promoting gambling. It's like, yeah, the guy's a scumbag.
yeah. He's and deeply embedded in the Communist Party, as all billionaires are, right? They all know each other. They're all
Yeah.
part of this, and he's trying to get an in into Australia politics and trying to govern Australia. So yeah, there we go. So that's him.
So that didn't work. So there's that.
Mm,
And yeah, this is the last tab I have.
yeah.
Yeah, we sort of went over this. I don't know if there's anything else in this
Oh,
one in particular you wanted to go over.
yeah. So basically, yeah, it's there was something. Karya founded Australia-China relations.
Yeah.
If you go down more,
Oh,
uh,
yeah.
yeah. So CAR's institute may outgrow its early links with the Communist Party's propaganda bureau and start to tell all kinds of China stories, good, bad, and indifferent, while working to build greater trust between the two countries. On recent evidence from China, it is hard to see that happening while CAR remains at the helm. Was that? So yeah, so they couch it in saying, oh, it's about trust, but I mean, no one. How can you trust the CCP? They're completely untrustworthy. So New Zealand is currently debating whether to join AUKUS. Peter summed up his view of Carr's contribution. What on earth does he think he's doing, walking into our country and telling us what to do? We would no more do that in Australia than he should do here. That's the kind of arrogance we don't like. I tried to do his voice, but yeah, exactly. Like, what's the big idea, you know? And they tried to get Hipkins and Clark to back him, but yeah, I mean, I think if those people are
I mean,
sort
people
of
already
against
don't
this,
like Hipkins. I mean, does he really want to start shilling for China? It's like, come on, dude. You
mm,
already have an
mm,
image. You already have an issue with your image.
yeah, well, it's interesting that those three people should attack Peters for this choice. It kind of really shows that this is a good direction. You know, if it is in direct contradiction
And
to
it's nuts.
China's,
I
yeah.
can't believe Chris Hipkins called like Bob Carr a respected Australian.
Oh
Like, it's
God,
like, buddy,
yeah,
the guy's a disgrace. Like, what are you
yeah.
talking about?
There's something really off about that guy Hipkins. I mean, well, he did kind of orchestrate a genocide basically in New Zealand, which is we're still having to contend with right now. But I mean, all that information's going to come out on that end eventually. It's becoming more and more clear to everybody. So we'll just see. But yeah, I mean, this is yeah. So I mean, this is what it is, guys. I mean, Um, it's not really hard to figure this out that New Zealand should go in this way. You know, I mean, of course, we don't want to become closer to China. I mean, China has no good intention for us or anyone, and
Well,
you
that's
just
the
need to.
thing.
Mm,
China, I've said this before, but China's got some like major socio-economic issues on the horizon in the near future, within like the next 5 years, maybe to 10 if they're lucky. They've got like a demographic collapse. Their economy is like strapped to the eyeballs with debt, even worse than New Zealand and a lot of Western countries. Their growth is stagnating.
mm,
They have more and more competitors for the whole like cheap labor market type thing.
mm,
So they're not just like the world's factory anymore, and it's also just filled with debt, and its population is going to start declining within the next
mm.
decade. So
Yeah.
there's some pretty major issues that's coming China's way. I think it's going to go the way of Japan between the 80s and 90s. It's just going to just stagnate and then stay stagnated basically for its entire future.
Mm,
For like
mm.
decades after that. So I think China's going to go the way of Japan uh,
Interesting.
within the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah. It would certainly seem that way. They just haven't built up their country in a sustainable way.
Yeah, they built it up,
That's
but
just
in doing so, they filled up with debt. So that's going to cause
yeah.
a problem one way or the other. So
Yeah. So I don't think I sent this MSN article to. Should I send it or should I just
yeah,
read it
send
real
it,
quick?
send it in.
Oh, okay.
I'll
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
bring it up.
Oh, sweet, sweet. Yeah, because I think that was the last one that we wanted to show. Sorry, man. I kind of
Yeah, let's put it in the side chat here.
yeah, yeah. Okay. Oop, I've got so many windows and tabs
Yeah, there
open.
we go.
But yeah, sweet. So I mean, this is like kind of sums it up. I'd like to preface this article by saying, former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev said Putin's goal is to build an open Eurasia from Lisbon to Vladivostok, which is, all the way to Portugal. you
Yeah,
know?
good luck. I don't think that's
Yeah.
gonna work.
But I mean, that's the crazy kind of thing that, both China and Russia are united under. And certainly China has its, megalomaniacal aims as well to occupy the 48 states of America and, Taiwan and things like this. And they're very open about this with that Chi Hao Chuan speech. But anyway, to this MSN article, we are all facing the same threats. NZ strengthens security ties with Europe's largest economy. That's Germany. So yeah, um, Germany's foreign minister has talked up the cybersecurity benefits of New Zealand aligning with AUKUS during her first official visit. So yeah, I mean this is a step in the right direction. I like this because the article goes on to say regarding cyber attacks on New Zealand. Uh, 2 months ago, it was revealed uh, Parliament was breached in 2021 by a Chinese state-backed group called APT40. China denied it, of course. But yeah,
Were they working with Xin Yang, the Chinese communist spy that was in the National Party at the time?
Oh well, yeah. There you go. So I mean, yeah, that was just really effed up, man. What was going on there with the National Party? I mean, they were literally dealing so closely to yeah, to the CCP on many different fronts, including military, and that was national. And Labor looks to be doing the same thing. I mean, we are being just like they tried to do with Australia. We are being led into unwittingly, without our knowledge, without our consent, we're being led into the jaws of the Chinese dragon. That's gonna collapse us all anyway. We may as well, put our trust in partners who are actually, reliable. But yeah, this is what they're doing, and New Zealanders have got to get it really clear. So yeah, the spy attack has been confirmed by spy officials. The GCSB can confirm that it was made aware of the potential targeting of email addresses relating to New Zealand representatives on the Interparliamentary Alliance on China, a spokesperson told NewsHub. So I mean, yeah, GCSB is aware of the reported concerns of individuals involved and is looking at the notification steps that were taken in the case. So yeah, this happened, and this is currently happening in America. Recently, that was told by Chris Wray in Congress recently, and I mean this is all going on, and this we'll see what happens. That this could be right before November 5th or November 6th for us during the U.S. elections. They intelligence sources are telling us they're going to attack their electricity, energy supply, and water supply, and they're just testing it out now. And even New Zealand isn't safe in this regard. This is who can trust this country. So I mean, it's pretty clear to me, like go looking at all this information, Hector, that this is the right step for New Zealand to take.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll see what happens in the future. We'll see if China's actually going to do anything. But I do think, again, their economy is not as good as it used to be. It's going to start stagnating. They're going to have to
Mm,
deal with the issue of all this debt. So we'll see if that leads to a more aggressive China military-wise. And I think it's good for New Zealand to just not be completely naive. Go, oh, but who's going to buy our gooseberries? Who's going to buy our Who's gonna buy our strawberries? It's
yeah,
there are some more
that's
important things to
silly.
worry about than selling kiwi fruit and strawberries to China. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
something to think about.
Yeah, yeah. We could probably support ourselves just with Australia, to be honest. But yeah. Um, there was I don't know if you want to go through who Annalena Baerbock is, but I'll basically just
Yeah, there
say,
you go.
oh yeah, I mean, so if people were interested on who was orchestrating these deals and things like that, she is a leftist, as is Olaf Scholz. But yeah, it goes on to say that she's works. She's a Green Party member. She has had kind of a sporadic past in terms of like her support for you know Germany, especially in regards to Ukraine. She so let's see. Um, yeah, so in terms of being a foreign minister, uh, she yeah taking a centrist defense, especially against Russia and China, but she's proposed herself as a post-pacifist on foreign policy, calling for the European army under the supervision of European Parliament, um, uh, and outlining steps towards Germany's denuclearization in consultation with allies. So she supports NATO's eastward expansion and cooperation with the United States. So that's kind of funny. It's like she's supports NATO pressing eastward, but she's for Germany's denuclearization. Um, that's kind of like it's strange. She's got kind of a schizophrenic sort of view on things rather than just making Germany sort of
Well, I mean, she's a leftist, so is she really going to put the interests of Germany like
yeah
anywhere
yeah
first?
yeah. I mean, I guess you guys can read up on this yourselves. She also like supported Israel. She also didn't support cluster munitions being used against you know uh, the Ukraine being using it against Russian
Yeah,
forces.
that
And
was also that policy is just so consistent because do you know how many landmines they're already using in Ukraine? It's like cluster munitions aren't going to make a difference. So
yeah,
they're
and I
like,
mean, I think all the civilians are already out of the area by now, right? I mean,
oh yeah, they were well out of the area. But I mean, the front lines have been sitting at sort of the same spot for the last 2 years, so
yeah.
there aren't really any uh, civilians crossing into the gray zone of the battlefield.
Mm. Yeah, I mean they've already kind of Ukraine has accused Russian forces of committing more than 400 war crimes, and at a conservative estimate, I think it was like 180. But I mean, yeah, I mean they're definitely just bombing the crap out of Ukrainians, and a lot of civilians have been killed in the bombings, and a lot of Ukrainian civilians have been kidnapped and you know sent to God knows where. Hopefully they're okay. But yeah, so it's like I don't know what she's really up to. But I mean, yeah, you guys can read about her. But yeah, she's an interesting creature. She isn't really consistent with like she refused to supply German weapons to Ukraine amid rising tensions on the Ukraine-Russia border. Um, yeah, and didn't support the US like sending weapons to Ukraine. So yeah, it's pretty it's she's a bit of a weird fellow, and I guess I'm not sure like what kind of why she was. I mean, she's a foreign minister, but I don't know, she's kind of all over the place, and I just thought that was interesting to bring up. And yeah, maybe now she realizes, or maybe she's in agreement with the rest of the party coalition that this is like a problem that Germany needs to be aware of now as Russia encroaches closer to Poland and other Eastern European countries. So, um, yeah, yeah. But she seems to accuse China of, you know, taking the side of Russia, even though they stated their neutrality in this war,
Yeah.
which is fair enough, actually. I think. I mean, I think we all know where China stands on all of this, and yeah, So anyway, that's an interesting figure. Was there any more about this, or that was? I think we
Those are
pretty
all the
much got.
links that I got. So,
Yeah. I think that.
anyways, it's
Yeah.
sort of we've summed it up there. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Uh, any closing thoughts as we wrap up?
Yeah. Well, I mean, just yeah, it's like kind of funny what's happening right now. With a lot of people not really apparently seeing what is actually going on in front of them. And yeah, I mean, hopefully New Zealanders really wake up to the geopolitical reality uh, that's happening, because that should really, and hopefully they do a little bit of homework, a little bit of study, because yeah, this thing is very real, and it seems to be mounting intentions. So I mean, we hear that a lot of the US is spooked. Clearly, Germany is very spooked, as their intelligence sources are leading them. And yeah, that there a lot of people are very concerned, and I can see, uh, with Winston Peters, that he's seems to be a little bit on edge as well. And for all these kind of communist shills like Hipkins, these New World Order communist UN shills like Helen Clark, and Hipkins and Bob Carr, to come out like this suddenly, just out of the blue, um, is really quite interesting. And it's like you'd think they'd want a strong national security for New Zealand, but apparently not. And I'm very surprised to see that New Zealanders don't seem to echo the sentiment that we need closer cooperation with Germany, with the UK, with Australia, with the US, amidst all these, cyber attacks and intelligence happenings, and aggression in the Indo-Pacific region, and in Ukraine. It's crazy that none of these things, these technologies and techniques, AI and quantum computing and stuff, that these were not being worked on before. But yeah, I mean, again, these people just have not done their homework. They're not taking this seriously. It seems like in Parliament, New Zealand Parliament, that is, Peters is the only one taking this situation seriously.
Well, yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens there. It is funny to see all these people going, no, Winston's not being professional or whatever. It's like Bob Carr's a respected Australian
Oh God.
former politician, which is like not even true. But anyways, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the show. We're taking a break next week because I'm out of town. I mean, well, I'm taking a break. Gil might do a solo show. So we got that to look forward to. Hope everyone's doing good, has a great weekend, and as always, we'll see you next time, and stay blessed, not stressed.
Amen.